Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Logical Nonsense Podcast. Today we have a loaded hip hop and sports podcast coming to you live. We've got Kendrick responds to Drake's two diss tracks. We've also got We Still Don't Trust You full album review. And then to finish it off, we'll have Dodge Matthews on to talk about the NBA playoffs as well as the NFL draft. It was a crazy draft, and we'll be rating almost every team's draft class. So make sure to stick around for that. But first, let's start with the hip hop. It's been a while since we've really dove deep into hip hop, and there's been a lot that happened, especially since the last time that I talked about the diss tracks. J. Cole apologized, and a lot of people turned their back on Cole. Don't really like the whole um, idea of him kind of turning back on what he kind of stood for within his verse, and even removing the track. As I mentioned before, that's really not Cole's style, but it's okay. He's really kind of filtered himself out of the game. Then Drake appeared, and Drake released Push-Ups. Push-Ups was pretty solid, which we'll get into in just one sec. And then a week later, after Push-Ups, he releases on Instagram a tailor-made freestyle, which had stirred a lot of controversy with the two AI features of Tupac and Snoop Dogg. I'll get into this later as well. It's really the first time we've seen a huge artist like this use AI, and I think that kind of effect shocked a lot of people. Finally, today, Tuesday, as I'm recording this, Kendrick Lamar releases his response to Drake's two diss tracks. So first we had Like That, then J. Cole comes back, then we have two Drake diss tracks, and then Kendrick finally responds to it all. Kendrick's Euphoria, which is his response diss track, is 6 minutes long. He definitely put in some pen game into this, and it turned out well. I'm very excited to go in depth of why I love this response so much, why it proves Kendrick is still probably the best in the game. Let's get into first Drake's diss track. So both of them were pretty solid. I think I do like Push-Ups more. It's probably a personal preference, but Push-Ups still some really hard lines. When he says Maroon 5 need a verse, better make it witty, then we need a verse for the Swifties. I mean, that verse or that line is really a stab at Kendrick, talking about how, Kendrick always talks about Drake being a pop star, and yet Kendrick still gets his features on pop stars and pop bands to get his clicks up, to get his listens up. I think he's trying to really get at the point that don't act like you don't do the exact same thing I do. I think, it is it his best line? No, but it's definitely a stab. I think it proves a point. In Kendrick's defense, he just released an album that was not very poppy. He's never released a pop album. He's been mostly rap. Obviously, he's had his verses and features and stuff like that. But I would also like to say, like, that was during a time where that was like almost accepted, which feel how you want to feel about that. But like it was during like early 2000s, like everyone was trying to get their pop stuff out and doing features and what you not. So I think solid line, definitely memorable. Going to another line I really enjoyed on this. You ain't in no big three. SZA got you wiped down. Travis got you wiped down. Savage got you wiped down. Really, this is more leaning into the fact that Kendrick's been gone for 5 or 6 years and finally releases Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Big flop to a lot of people. A lot of people don't think it was a relevant album to the hip hop world. And he's really just saying, like, you've got three people who aren't even me or J. Cole who are been releasing better music, been more successful than you lately. Kind of an interesting stab, you know, saying SZA, Travis, and 21 Savage. I think it really plays into the whole idea that Kenny, you're riding on your success, bro. Like you have not released anything that's like crazy good in a long time, and like, you're kind of being forgotten in that big three. So I think it's a solid line. I think it's one of the best lines on this track. Drake he got creative with that. Obviously, one of the more memorable ones too is the I can't remember the exact line. Something about shoe size being a size 7. Really really going at Kendrick's size. I think it's a little weak. I mean, like, yes, I understand diss tracks can get personal, and Euphoria is very personal, honestly. But going going after a man's size, it's kind of like it is what it is. It's just tacky. I think there's better ways to get personal than like size. Maybe I'm saying that because I'm short, but I think it was alright. I think a more memorable line in this, and that I think is probably his best line, especially because of the double entendre, is "What's a prince to a king? Neighbor. He is son." Double entendre because obviously Kendrick in his "Like That" verse has the famous line of, "Prince outlived Mike Jack." Really, this is a double entendre because obviously Prince is son of a king, or um, the other meaning is Michael Jackson's son is named Prince Jackson. So very creative, very lyrically advance for Drake, honestly. I didn't know he had that kinda line in him, so very, very solid. As an overall statement, I think Drake, back in the day when he was releasing, like, 0 to 100 and back to back, I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost like I believed him more on those types of diss tracks versus something like Push Ups, where I feel like I don't know, he sounds almost weird trying to be tough now. Like, I feel like back then he wasn't as exposed maybe, and now it just sounds very forced. I will say this, and I will give him credit. I think he delivered this diss track much better than I would say than I thought he was going to. It was actually a pretty solid diss track. I think a lot of people don't even consider J. Cole's diss track a diss anymore because he kind of apologized, took it off the internet. But Drake's diss track on this, I thought it was pretty solid. Where I do lean into and I say, "What is this?" is tailor-made freestyle. Obviously, he brings in Tupac and Snoop and really the whole narrative behind these 2 AI verses that Drake wrote. Well, apparently, we don't know. I mean, he is a ghostwriter. He has a lot of ghostwriters. So, Tupac and Snoop basically just saying like, "Where are you, Kenny? Like, we're waiting for you to come back. You need to put this Canadian boy back in his place. You're disappointing us." Which is I don't know. I find it low key disrespectful. I think this is the whole problem with AI. A lot of people don't want it to be used for people who can't defend themselves or can't speak for themselves. Somebody like Tupac, like the only people who can really defend him are his family, and like even his family doesn't know what he wants. Like, would Tupac want that? I don't know, but like let's not guess if he wants it or not. Like people are saying like, "Oh, Tupac would have loved this beef." Sure he would have. Sure he would have, but like you can't just like insert him, and I also just think it's kind of weird to use somebody else's lyrics and auto generate them into somebody else's mouth. I don't know, like it's just a weird concept. And I also think this is going to open up a lot of eyes. Drake's using AI. Drake, he has what? He has 80 million monthly listeners. To say that he doesn't have an influence, like he does. And I think him being able to use AI almost opens up the floodgates for other artists to do this kind of thing, whether it's in hip hop, whether it's in rock, whether no matter the genre, he's really showing you can use this. And I understand it was funny. And I actually understand there's a deeper meaning to putting Snoop and Tupac. A lot of people that might go under the radar. Tupac and Snoop were both huge parts of that album in To Pimp a Butterfly, one of Kendrick's most regarded albums. And so for him to use Snoop and Tupac and make, "Oh, we're disappointed in you." Like I get it. I get why he did it and a lot of people think it's funny. I don't know. I'm so on it, but Drake on this one, Drake's verse, it's not. I think he had better verse on push-ups, but really he's mostly just bragging about how long Kendrick is taking to respond, which is hilarious to me because Drake took what 2 weeks to respond, pretty much the exact same time Kendrick took to respond, and so for him to be coming at him for that kind of thing, and then also how Kendrick's scared of Taylor Swift and like, "Oh, you can't release now." Like, dude, like that has nothing to do with it. I don't know, he it just felt like a stretch for me. This whole song was just kind of a weird diss track for me. I think if he would've just stuck with push-ups, it would've been fine, but then he brought in AI, and Loki brought in ways for Kendrick to diss him even more. So going into Euphoria, which was released today by Kendrick Lamar, absolute crazy song. I didn't expect it, especially on a Tuesday. But let's go through some of the lines. Not a real artist, a scam artist, hopes of being accepted. When I talk about going after personal things, you'll see Kendrick kind of really dig deep into a lot of Drake's supposed insecurities, which is kind of deep and saying like, "Oh, hopes of being accepted." I mean, that's pretty deep, man. His daddy a killer, they wanna be junior, they must have forgot the shit they done. Dementia must run in his family, but let it get shaky. I'll park his son. Damn. Obviously, Drake's dad had some shakiness in his past and kind of saying like, "Oh, you guys both must have dementia because like I'll put your son to rest" is pretty hard bar. And then, Kendrick really just throughout the entire song is exposing Drake of all these insecurities, of all these weaknesses that Drake has, especially when he's talking about, I'd rather do that than let a Canadian neighbor make Pac turn in his grave, cutthroat business. You got the shit twisted. What is it? The braids. I mean, going after the man's little braids after he went after inside, I think is reasonable. It's kind of a little twist. I like the Pac line more than I do the braids line. As I mentioned before, it's just kind of tacky, but it's still a solid line. So I think this whole little section here is just absolutely crazy. Okay, it's three goats left, and I see two of them kissing and hugging on stage. I love them to death. And in 8 bars, I'll explain that phrase. It's nothing to nobody can tell me. I don't want to talk on no celly. I got language barriers. Yeah, Cole and Aubrey know I'm a selfish neighbor. The crown is heavy. I pray they my real friends. If not, I'm YMW Melly. Wow. Talking about obviously, the big three line and then how him and Cole are just best friends and Kendrick is this selfish guy who wants the crown all to himself, but that crown is heavy. The crown is heavy to be the top of the hip hop game. And talking also about how if they're not his real friends, he'll murder them, just like Murder on My Mind and YMW Melly. So many layers, so many bars within that. Really nice. Yeah, fuck all that pushing P. Let me see you push a T. Obviously, push a T absolutely flamed Drake in the back, um, way back when. And so another hard bar that I think is just adds to this freaking list here. How many more black features till you feel black enough? Obviously, Drake is has a white mom and a black dad, and so there's been speculation that he has a little bit of insecurities about being truly black, and so I think talking about always featuring on upcoming artists that he puts on the map that are very, from the streets and definitely more of that hardcore style rapper. Just throwing more shade at the dude, and I love it. I hate when you say the word neighbor, but that's just me, I guess. Probably the hardest line in the whole thing. I mean, it's really just going out how Drake isn't tough. Drake, you aren't, this gangster that you claim you are, this tough guy that you claim you are, we like your melodic stuff, just stay that way. Really just kind of going after Drake's entire identity and basically saying like, "Bro, you're a pansy. Like, quit coming after me. Like, I am who I am." And I think that's what makes this better than Drake's is Drake does pretend to be other people. Kendrick doesn't. He's not pretending to be somebody else. We see the true Kendrick through and through, and I think what's nice about it, cease and desist on Like That record. Apparently somebody he tried to cease and desist like that, which is absolutely freaking crazy. Again, just showing more of a pansy, how big of a pansy Drake is. I think Kendrick absolutely flamed this man for 6 minutes straight. I don't think there's a way that Drake can come back from this. I really don't. I do like Drake, I do like Kendrick, but I don't think Drake's recovering. This is too personal. This is too deep. I what does Kendrick have on or what does Drake have on Kendrick now? Like I think that was the nail in the coffin. We'll see. We'll see if he can come back and deliver something better than what Kendrick just said, but I really don't think he can. I honestly, even his first, unlike that, a lot of people were not really giving Kenny the credit. Kenny's creative. Kenny has a lot of bars that go under the radar that a lot of people don't pick up on unless you dive in deep. And I think some hip hop consumers don't necessarily hear all of those bars. I definitely think Kendrick's very creative and he's not always straightforward, whereas Drake is very one dimensional in a lot of his verses. And that's why I think Drake can never really win a battle like this, in my opinion. All right, now going to We Still Don't Trust You album review. This was an interesting album, definitely much different feel than I think some people expected or saw coming. Obviously, We Don't Trust You was a very classic trap album of Metro and Future, and I think while it was very entertaining, I think it honestly has aged really well on me. We Don't Trust You, and I think this was so much of a different feel that they really do feel like two different albums. Which a lot of people were worried that they were going to sound the same. Some people really don't like this album. I think you gotta respect that Future and Metro really said, "We can't make this the same that we made on the first album." So, let's hop right into it. Starting off with the first, We Still Don't Trust You. Um, you know, right off the bat, you feel that atmosphere change. It's more of a pop, kind of that 80s techno electronic kind of feel to it. We still don't trust you. And then you got the weekend vocals in the back. Kind of sets the tone for the rest of the album. Like this is not going to be the same. I find it kind of repetitive. It is catchy though. Like I find myself getting that future chorus stuck in my head. I don't really fuck with the weird vocals. Um, you know, I don't know, this was kind of a weird intro. Some people like it, but it is just an intro, so I can't harp on it too much. Drink and Dance, melodic Future we see on this. It's definitely got some tones of subtle guitar on there. It's got this very pop feel to it again. The beat drops and Future on this song are both very solid. I think the melodies are a little weak compared to some of the others on the album. This song has aged better on me the more I listen to it. At first, I think I even had it on my misses for the TikTok, and I don't know if I would say it's a miss. It's kind of just an average song for me, but you know, it's all right. Going to Out of My Hands, I think this is where we see some of the more savage kind of toxicity uh Future. He has a lot of interesting bars on here, very choppy beat, very choppy flow. He actually shows a lot of different flows in this song, which is very interesting, very entertaining for me. I like it when somebody can show that fluctuation. We're not hearing the same kind of flow throughout the track. So I enjoyed that Future was able to kind of change up his energy, but also match the energy of the beat that Metro delivers to him. What's really memorable about this song for me is the whole "want you to know" that little whisper, very, very memorable, very catchy, something that I remember from this song for sure. Going to Jealous, this beat reminds me of something off of like a Pink Tape or even The Eternal Take. Very technical, techno slash futuristic sounding beat. It's lacking a lot of substance for me in this song, and I just feel like it kind of feels like filler. It's very repetitive. It's kind of almost too simple of a song. I don't mind simple songs. Not every song has to be complicated or anything like that, but definitely a little too simple for me. I think you could take this song off of a 25 song album for sure. This Sunday, this one is a super weird song for me. The synth I was not vibing with whatsoever. This was one of my misses on the album. I think it just came out really weird and executed really weird. It's more of this melodic song on a weird synth beat. There's a ton of distorted voices and I just don't I can't stand this song. I think it is by far the worst song on this album, and I've listened to it over and over again. I honestly probably listen to the ones I don't like more just to make sure that I do have my opinion straight. I can't stand this song. The more I listen to it, the more I hate it. So, hope I never have to listen to it again. Going to Love Bad Bitches. Definitely kind of Metro's attempt at a classic Metro radio hit, in my opinion. It's obviously a repetitive chorus, but that's kind of the type of song he's going for here. It's honestly not a bad song, and it's a song that's aged well on me. The more that I review this album, I think it's got that mainstream feel to it, poppy sound. I think this is kind of a club banger in my opinion. I love bad bitch, it's a solid, it's not out of my playlist, but it's still a solid song and it's one that I could vibe out to if I'm at a club or, you know, out somewhere. So wouldn't be shocked if you added it to your playlist. Amazing interlude. Low key really fuck with this interlude. I actually wish this was a song that was extended and made more because I really enjoyed the the beat on this. I think it's a really dope song, and Future's sound on this song is so cool. It's super catchy flow. I just think this is a song with a lot of untapped potential on it. All to myself, with Metro and The Weeknd. I actually think The Weeknd carries on this song. Metro's melodic stuff, it's grown on me, but I'm still not the biggest fan of. I think, as I mentioned just a minute ago, like the Weeknd carries. His vocals matched with Metro's production and that 80s kind of feel is just unmatched. And we kind of see Metro and the Weeknd tap more into that chemistry. And I really enjoy it. Really enjoy this song, especially when we get to his verse. Um, Going to Nights Like This. This is one of my favorite songs on the album. Like, genuinely, I think it's probably one of his best melodic performances on the entire album. I think the chemistry between his production, his voice, his flow, it just works so well. And this is what I would have liked to see more if we're going to go in a melodic direction on the disc. What I have a lot of issue with on some of the more other melodic tracks is it's this weird mix of awkward sounding melodies on kind of more futuristic or techno or 80s feel beats to them, and I don't think it meshed well. This is a an example of something that does mesh well, and I think if we were to hear more of this, I think I would have liked disc 1 a little bit more. Come to the Party, another very mid song in my opinion. I think it's just very repetitive, and Future in general is somebody who really goes after those catchy choruses, those catchy little liners, and I wasn't a fan of this one, and it might not it's just maybe a personal preference, but new outfit and a new bit like, I get it. Like, it's a fun song, like, it's very catchy, but like, I'm not adding that. Like, I'm not listening to that. Like, I don't know. Not for me. So, going to Right for You. It's a high energy song. I think there's a lot of buildup. There's a lot of momentum, but we're all waiting for this beat drop that never happens. And that's like, it's kind of annoying because it's just like this teaser song to me. And I think the chorus is one that I actually really like on the song. But I could see where people may find it repetitive. Again, as I just mentioned, I think Future is just one of those people who likes that kind of catchier chorus. So going to Mile High Memories, I think this is another one of those weird, underwhelming songs. This is a sad song, which I think is completely fine to have on any album, but again, not executed correctly. I don't know. If you fuck with this one, like, nope, no trip, but not for me. Going to Overload, very average filler song again. I do enjoy the attempt at the voice fluctuations, as well as the outro with the distorted voice. I think there's some cool aspects in this song that makes it maybe a little bit above average for the album. Overall, though, it's still just filler. Like, we don't need this song. Again, 25 tracks. Do we really need this? I don't think so. Going to Gracious, I think this is a solid song. It's filled with a lot of cool melodies added, as well as this nice little loop sample that you hear without the track. It's got this layered beat, and a slight dollar sign feature, which isn't terrible either. So I enjoy this. Beat It. I actually haven't heard a lot of people enjoy this. I really do. I think it's kind of this exciting, almost thriller song with the high pitched, sped up vocals. And then it's just this very like mysterious, almost wants like nasty, it's just I really enjoy this. I think this is, one of Future's better performance. I think it's one of Metro's better beats on the album too. I think it's just a very interesting song, so I enjoyed it. Going to Always Be My Fault, another techno beat, and we hear The Weeknd again. I think The Weeknd's first song is better than this song, but it's still a solid song. Future's voice kinda gets lost in this song. He definitely shows his emotion more towards the second part of the song, and I think when you hear that emotion and hear that passion, it definitely gets better. But overall, it's an above average song, relationship song. A big theme in this song is relationships, toxicity, that kind of thing. So going to One Big Family, slow build up song was underwhelmed personally by this song. Another just filler song to me. Not much more to say about that. Red Leather, oh, wow. I think this is probably a candidate for me for Song of the Year so far. I think this is one of the smoothest, most simple beats I've heard in a while, and I fucking loved it. I think the smoothness by both Future into J. Cole's verse is just beautiful. I think this is one of Cole's best features ever. Might be a hot take, but it's seriously like almost a flawless melody on the verse. I think he sounds so well. The chemistry between the beat, Cole's voice, and his lyrics, talking about he should be more like Future and chasing women and having multiple different women. Like so good, man. Like he tells a storytelling, and like he just carries this song. I mean, this is probably my most played song in the last 2 weeks, and it's because of that verse. Like, I just keep wanting to go back to it, keep wanting to hear it, um, and it's almost 7 minutes long, but it doesn't feel like 7 minutes. It's just so smooth, so nice, and it's just one of those songs that I feel like we're gonna be playing late night drives, very vibey, just beautiful. I don't even know if it fits on th I don't know, like, it feels so different from the rest of disc 1, but I fucking love it, and I'm so glad we got it. Going to disc 2, this is where we hear some more higher paced beats and some of the more classic Future we're used to. Nobody Knows My Struggle. Move into, like I said, that classic high paced trap beat where some cool lines, some more ferociousness, some more savage, cutthroat bars. So I really enjoy when he goes, "Hasta la vista." I mean, this is a dope song, and I think, this is a song that I maybe didn't like or appreciate as much on the first listen as I did on the second and third, so going to All My Life, similar sounding beat. Honestly, all of this too has very similar sounding beats to me. I think this has a better chorus than the other one, and I think there's better rapping performance in general. Little Baby also provides a really good verse on this, as well, and I think that was interesting because we haven't really heard from Lil Baby in a while. Obviously, he was, like, kind of ruling the game for a while. A lot of people thought he was one of the best rappers. I personally was never a huge fan of him, but a lot of people enjoyed what he was putting out there, so interesting to hear him back and rule the game. So going to Crossed Out, kind of again, honestly, it's kind of a mix of disc 1 and disc 2, which is kind of cool. I think it's this cool transition song, kind of rock in there, little rock elements in there, which is kind of cool because 'cause we're starting to hear that more and more within the rap genre. Got a cutthroat feel, kind of a savage feel. And it's a solid song, and you can kind of feel that higher pace energy, solid verse, from Future, so good song. Crazy Clientele, creative song with the ad libs kind of responding back and forth. It's kind of a subtle banger that I think isn't being talked about enough, and it won't get the attention it deserves, but it's a very solid song. Going to Show of Hands, really do love ASAP's verse on this and what he brought. I think it's funny that he's going after Drake, especially considering he hasn't really released much music at all. And so now that he's coming out of the woodwork to just, he hasn't released an album since testing, and now he's coming out and flaming people. I don't know. It's funny that he's getting his hands into it. So kind of funny that it's called Show of Hands. Going to Streets, Made Me a King, solid outro song. Overall, I think I do like disc 2 better than disc 1. That may be personal preference on what I like in the style of Future. I know some people like more of melodic Future, but I personally do like this too. I think it's more of his strength. Going to our logic method of rating lyrics, I think it's very focused. It's mostly on relationships, as I talked about, kind of more. He talks about toxicity in relationships, women, love, etc. I think all things women you'll hear a lot and is a common theme. It's not the highlight of this album. I don't think lyrics is something that I look back on this album and like, wow, he told some great stories. Are there stories in this album? Absolutely. I think there's some tracks like, Red Leather, Show of Hands, even Nights Like This. I think there's some really interesting verses and some unique storytelling. But then there's some not great storytelling either and not great bars. So I think, it's very average. I'm giving it a solid 7 out of 10 for lyrics. Going to On Point production, this is a much more experimental album than we heard on the first. I much prefer the production on the first album. Saying that a Metro album is bad produced, you're not probably going to hear from me say that. But I do think, we had a lot of classic samples on trap beats on the first one. And this one, we heard more techno, electronic, 80s feel to them, more of a pop. Sometimes we heard synths, sometimes we heard deep drums. It was experimental, and I think you got to respect that. I'm gonna give it we'll give it a solid 8 out of 10. Executed decently. I think you could have maybe paired the performance of Futures better, but overall, pretty solid production. Glorious flows, mostly melodic on disc 1, and we do hear him try to have some different fluctuations in his flow as well as his tone of voice, which is interesting. We hear some more spoken word, we hear some classic Future, higher pace, and then we just hear kind of all over the place, like some I can't even describe. Um, I don't think it's his best melodic performance. I think honestly, we've even his last album before this was better melodically than this one. Were executed decently. There was when he did execute his melodies right, they were some of my favorite songs. So I'll give Glorious Flows a 7.8 out of 10. Immediate hits, I think Red Leather, Show of Hands, they're getting the attention they deserve. And I think there's some the other songs that, might get some attention, but overall, I feel like this just felt like a lot of filler to me. And this is where it struggled compared to last time. I think last time I gave immediate hits an 8. I think you got to drop that down to maybe like a 6.8 or 6.7. Just because it wasn't anything to write home about. There's only a few hits in my opinion, and that's fine. Content matter, but it's so bloated. I think that's my biggest thing with this. It's so bloated. 25 tracks, and really, how many were meaningful? How many hit the spot? I would say maybe 15 of them, maybe. And so when you look at that, I think you look at the content matter, the production. And there was a lot of experimenting on this. I think this was kind of almost a fun project, but I think we got some not as high quality tracks as I would have liked. And for that, I have to mark the content matter way down to like a 7.1 out of 10. I mean, this is still a good rating of an album. Overall, our average score for this album is 7.3 out of 10. Let me know what you think on the album, and yeah, let me know in the comments. Now going to sports. All right, moving into our sports section, we have the man himself, Mr. Dodge Matthews, coming on. NFL draft. There were some head turners in this draft. Obviously, a loaded draft class. You and I went through, did our mock drafts, and honestly, there were some things we were off on, but there was also some guys I think we were pretty close on, and especially looking at what the teams wanted to go and get. Maybe we didn't get the guy correctly, but we definitely went after the similar position that we thought they would go after. So, Doug, how are you? What do you think of the draft?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, Hunter. And yeah, I thought the draft definitely it has a lot of talent going into this year. And I think that's what we saw a lot of change with in what we were expecting is that free agency trades and then there's just a lot of talent to go around.
Yeah,
So, this is one of the deeper drafts where you can go in the third, fourth round and still get a guy who's going to be productive for your team.
absolutely. There's a lot of
So,
skills in this draft that we're gonna get to that I
yeah.
really like some of these moves and why I have grades on some of these teams so high is because of what they did in the third and fourth round. So yeah, definitely agree with that. Very deep class, and I think this it has potential to be, you know, 4 or 5 years down the road. We're talking about guys who are like, why didn't they go first round? It's like, look at this draft class.
Exactly.
So
The redraft of this draft class will be crazy to see in 5, 10 years.
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm excited to see what they do too. We could just be blowing smoke up this draft class's ass. We don't know. But let's hop right into it. Going to the draft classes, I have pulled up a list of some of the each team's is draft picks. It also has a grade from the NFL.com, but we have our own grades. We don't use their stupid system over there. So let's go into it. Starting first with the Arizona Cardinals. They went out. They got Marvin Harrison at number 4. Some other notable names. They got Trey Benson from Florida State, Max Melton from Rutgers. Do you see any other names on this list that you went, wow, that's a great pick?
I think the two names that I wrote down were Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously, and Trey Benson.
Darius
But
Robinson
I,
was
you
an
know, I
interesting
think
one.
the I think the picks of Darius Robinson, Isaiah Adams, a guard from Illinois, they know how to produce guards in Brett Bielema's system. And I don't think they're bad draft picks, but I think the two that I'll be watching to actually produce for this team in the future is Benson and Harrison Jr.
Yeah, I mean Harrison Jr. was overall just across the board he's just a complete receiver. That's the best way to put it. He to get him at 4, I think is awesome. I know
I
you're
thought it
not
was a
happy as a
steal.
Seahawks fan, but
you know,
Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison, like that is his best weapon he's had since DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I personally I think he's better than Hollywood Brown. I think he's going to be, and yeah, I'm very interested to see how these two produce together, and if the Cardinals have some magic going over there.
yeah, I definitely think that the Cardinals are not a team that I don't think there's a team in the NFC West that you can overlook, honestly, especially after this draft. Yeah, a great pick. I can't believe he slid down to 4. Obviously the first 3 teams we kind of knew what they were looking
Yeah,
for, but I still thought he was too good to slide down past 3 quarterbacks. So
yeah, yeah. Let it be known, I got my first 4 draft picks correct, which was kind of cool. What do you grade the Arizona Cardinals?
you know what? This is gonna sound bad, but I also gave them an A minus. I thought it was a pretty mid A minus. They got Marvin Harrison Jr. like we talked about, and we've talked about it all. But there's no glaring draft picks where I said, "Oh, they messed up," and they got what they needed.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with B. Just a solid B, which might seem a little low. I think the Darius Robinson while some people may say it's like a huge reach, I don't think it's a huge reach, but I do think it's a reach. So I knocked that one down. You had 2 first round draft picks. I think they could have gotten a guy like, in my personal opinion, who I like better, like a Jerzon Newton or um
Yeah,
I just think there was better D tackle prospects. I think there's better edge prospects at that time if you want to build up your line. And certain teams have certain guys that they really like, so you got to respect them for trusting in that. But I do think there were better prospects at that time, and so that's why I'm going to go with B. Overall, though, I think they could have a really solid draft. Going to probably the most heated team, the most hot discussion team from the NFL draft. One you and I have, I'm pretty sure, are on the same page here, but Atlanta Falcons, they went out, they go and get Michael Penix Jr. at number 8 overall. A lot of head scratching here by a lot of people. some people are defending hardcore on the Atlanta Falcons, which is interesting to me. Braylon Trice, solid pick, late round. I don't know how to say his name. Or Row. It's funny. I was watching.
Call him Rook.
Yeah, I was watching the NFL network draft cast, and they said that, and they were saying Scooby Doo, which is kind of funny. But I think there's some steals they got later, but I don't know. It was an okay draft for me. Let's hop into the QB discussion. Let's address the elephant in the room. Michael Penix. What are we doing here, Falcons? I mean, it doesn't make sense. You go out, you go get Kirk Cousins, pay him $100 million to be your next QB. What do you do with the number 8 pick? You don't supplement this defense like a lot of people thought they would. What they do is they go and draft another QB who is 23 years old, has a long history of injuries, and probably won't play for 2 or 3 years because Kirk Cousins is on that contract, and they got him at the number 8 overall. Did they need to? Some people are saying they did. I don't think so. What do you think, Doug?
I don't think so either. When you have the number 8 pick in the draft, you're doing that to help your team, right?
Mhm.
And if you're not, you should be trading down.
Yeah.
This is a classic trade down situation.
Yeah.
If they feel comfortable with the guys that they have on the defensive edge, which they lost, I believe they lost their top 2 sack getters from last season. So I don't understand. I wouldn't feel comfortable there. And there are good edge rushers in this draft. I
Yeah.
would have chosen one or traded down a little farther and chosen either another one or keep Penix, the trade down.
Yeah, I got you.
No, it just doesn't make sense. I believe they signed Kirk Cousins 4 years, $180 million, $100 million guaranteed. He might not play till he's 28.
That's that's my whole
I
point.
mean,
Yeah.
and you're using that on your first round draft pick, let alone like you spent a bunch of money to go get Kirk. I
Yeah.
completely agree with you. And Kirk's a good quarterback.
And that's
Like
the thing too.
you don't
Like,
need to get a possibly good backup when you
yeah.
have a good quarterback.
I just
So
think it's also an identity crisis for this team. You go out, you go get Kirk Cousins, tell him he's the man, and then you use your number 8 pick to go get Michael Penix Jr. Tell me,
it's
like,
confusion. It's confusion.
you're confusing your team. It's to me, it doesn't make any sense. Also, I've heard a lot of comparisons on this pick to Jordan Love, which I disprove in every single way. Michael Penix Jr., like I said, is older. He has a long history of injuries. Jordan Love didn't. He was younger. He was 21 years old when he got drafted. Aaron Rodgers was on his downturn too. And also Jordan Love was picked in a later. Like he wasn't the
He's
number
picked
8 overall
24.
draft
Yeah.
pick, you know?
Another thing about the Jordan Love problem is that Jordan Love was picked as a developmental quarterback to be
And he was young.
developed underneath Rodgers.
Yeah.
Penix is not seen as a developmental quarterback. He's seen as possibly being ready now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. I thought the pick on Braylon Trice, just looking down further, was just one of the steals in the draft. We talked about him possibly moving up draft boards. Looks like he slid down a little bit, but I thought that kind of saved the Falcons.
Yeah.
It saved kind of the Falcons' grade in my book.
What's your grade for him?
All right, I swear I did not look this up on NFL.com before, but I gave him a C plus. Technically, a grade is 77. And
Okay.
that Braylon Trice pick at 74 really moved it up to a C plus because before that, it's looking like a C minus.
I went with C minus. So there you go. I really think they wasted a pick here. I think for so many aspects of the game, it was in a terrible way. They're saying day 1 C. I think that's a day 1 D. Like that is not a good pick. A lot of people believe in this prospect. Reasonably so. I don't even hate Michael Penix Jr. Like he's a good quarterback. He's got a good arm. It's not that I don't think he's going to be a good player, but if you don't see him for 3 or 4 years, like, he's what, gonna have 8-year career maybe of actually playing?
At most, especially with
Yeah,
his injuries. I would
exactly
say
my point. So, I'm going C minus here for the Atlanta Falcons. Alright, we're gonna skip the Baltimore Ravens. We'll go with an interesting team. The Buffalo Bills traded both of their first round picks. Second round, they get Keon Coleman. Obviously, they just traded away Stephon Diggs, so trying to replace some of that receiving core. Did they also get rid of Gabe Davis?
I know that I think they still have Gabe Davis.
Okay.
I'm not
Um,
100% on that, but I'm pretty sure they.
so yeah, I mean, it's a decent draft. There's some, I think, underrated guys that they picked up, like the Washington linebacker. I'm not going to attempt to say his name either. So I think there's some underrated guys here. What do you think of the Buffalo Bills and what they did in this draft?
I thought they did pretty well. I think getting Keon Coleman was necessary for them to get a top receiver in this draft, and they accomplished that. I also think Cole Bishop, the Utah defensive
Yeah,
back, safety, great. I thought that was a wonderful choice.
yeah.
Especially, believe they lost someone in their secondary,
Mhm.
so there's a perfect replacement right there. I didn't mind them trading at down. If you're going to trade down, this was a good situation to do it. I kind of, the Kentucky running back Ray Davis. I've heard a decent amount about him. He
I
seems to
have
get a lot of
to,
yards.
yeah.
Seems to get a lot of yards per carry. I think it was also a pretty solid pick. I gave them an A minus and a high
Okay.
A minus at that.
I'm gonna go with a. I'll stick with NFL.com's draft rating. I'll go with B plus as well. I think overall they did some good things. Some people were complaining that they drafted down and they really did need players. I don't know. Like they have gotten rid of quite a few of their players, but I still think the core of their team is still there. And I think Keon Coleman was a good pick. This is a good draft to trade down for receivers. So, and I actually really like Keon Coleman. I think he could surprise some people. A lot of people are worried about his one-dimensional figure as a receiver, and not being able to route run maybe as good as some other receivers. I mean, it's not really his type, but there's plenty of receivers who still succeed in the league without being a good route runner. So DK Metcalf's a perfect example of that. So let's move on to the Chicago Bears. I mean, this was probably one of my favorite first round, the first day. Obviously, they went out and they got Caleb Williams, the guy they've been talking about for some time, everyone's top prospect, really. And then they go and supplement him with a guy like Roma Dunze. I mean, if there is a team that has truly set their quarterback up for success from the moment he steps in, it is the Chicago Bears. And you have to give them that credit. If this fails, it's truly because of Caleb Williams. I mean, I guess there could be coach problems, but you can't tell me that the Chicago Bears didn't try. Um, I mean, they're doing everything they can. The only pick that I'm still like, what the fuck is that punter? Um,
Oh, see, I disagree.
in the fourth round,
Maybe not fourth round, but he
I
is a
don't mind the
fantastic
punter
punter.
pick, but the fourth round was a little like, all right, come on now. I know he's a good punter.
Oh,
I know he's super
yeah.
precise. I've seen his highlights, but I think fourth round was a little bit of a stretch.
I'll agree that I think fourth round for a punter or a kicker is usually a little bit of a stretch. He is a fantastic punter, though. And honestly, if you're the Bears, you don't need any more offensive options. Maybe you could have used a more defensive option. When you have that good of a punter, I also see the reason of let's go ahead and try and get a win on special teams as well during this draft. Williams Odunze, like you said, Williams is going into arguably the best situation a number one draft pick has ever gone in.
Yeah,
Um,
it's fair
Most number
point.
one draft picks are going into terrible situations, right?
Yeah,
With the team sucking, and the Bears don't suck. The Bears were okay last year, and then they go out and they get all these offensive weapons to surround him with. I had
yeah,
Rome Odunze as the second best wide receiver in this draft, so I think day one was perfect for them. Overall, I gave them an A minus, just because I think they could have used a better defensive player.
that's fair.
and I think maybe with the not with the not very high amount of draft picks that they had, they weren't able to get that, and so for that, I graded them down a little bit.
All right,
I
I'm gonna
guess
go
I'm
with
in line with
A here.
NFL.com.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah, you've been like pretty much reading these. My God. I'm gonna go with A here. I think, as I mentioned, they really getting a Dunze at 9 was low key a dream scenario for the Bears, and they made it happen. And I think you just got to give them that credit that they were able to do that. Obviously, like you said, the defensive player we would have liked to seen, but that defense really wasn't the issue last year. So I think they're gonna be okay. And so I'm going with A here. Let's go to if
Caden's
if
team.
Aiden was here, we would have talked about the Cowboys. Let's go to the Denver Broncos. Yeah, Dodge, you set the stage, so I'm not biased.
Okay. Well, oh wow, me and NFL.com are not in the agreement on this one. Bo Nix and Franklin are the two that I see being the most bringing the most production in the future for the Broncos. I do think Jonah Ellis was a decent pick. I think Audric Stime out of Notre Dame was a solid. It'll be running back depth for the Broncos.
Yeah.
I honestly thought the Broncos did everything they needed to do. They got people that were necessary and also added good spots for them. Right? I didn't think they reached for anybody. I thought getting Troy Franklin at 102, when I think in our draft thing I had
They
him
were
sneaking
first.
into. I had him
Yeah.
sneaking in the first round.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously Nix and Franklin know each other. I gave the Denver Broncos an A, and I gave them a 96, one of the highest scores. Not quite the highest, but one of the highest.
Interesting that you rate the Knicks picks so high. I mean, you didn't even have them going first round, did you?
I can't remember, but I don't think Bo Nix is a bad quarterback. Honestly, I think I would have taken Bo Nix over Michael Penix, even though he Penix was taken ahead.
Yeah.
I like Bo Nix. I think he's played well pretty much wherever he's been. Even at Auburn, I thought it's a tough culture there to live in the SEC.
Yeah.
Tough to live up to. But he was young. I thought he played all right. And then at Oregon, just has been absolutely fantastic. I think Bo Nix is a great pick for them.
I think Bo Nix is probably one of the most pro-ready quarterbacks in this draft, and I think you got to give him that credit. My biggest concern, I guess, is again, did the Broncos reach? They were kind of forced to take him, but it sounds like I don't know after Sean Payton talking that that's the guy they always wanted. So who knows if it would have mattered? I don't know. I'm so on it. I'm not mad at the pick, but I'm also not like thrilled. The only reason that I'm not thrilled about it is, like I said, Bo Nix, is he pro ready? Yes. I don't know how much bigger his ceiling will be. That's my biggest concern. I don't know, like, what is his peak? Who is a player that is his peak? He's super accurate, whatever. There's concerns about the arm. I don't know. I think he can still throw a deep ball and get it down there. Um,
Especially in Mile High.
yeah. So I think he'll be fine, but I do that's my biggest concern with him is I don't like is he just gonna be above average, you know? Or will he be that elite quarterback? And to be in the AFC West, if you want to compete with Patrick Mahomes, you need an elite quarterback. So we'll see. I have hopes for him. I hope he does well. Obviously, as a Broncos fan, I do like that they picked up Troy Franklin. I honestly really think for anyone to succeed in the Broncos, we need help at the receiving core. Some people think our receiving core is fine. I don't. Our top receiver last year had 700 yards. If that's not concerning to you, I don't know what is. I mean, I love Cortland Sutton. I think he's a good receiver, but only 700 yards receiving isn't a good sign. So, Jonah Ellis, I think, is also a solid pick. And Estime, I don't know. I don't know if we need more running back room help. Maybe we have a lot of injured guys, but he seems to be a proven guy. I mean, his stats were pretty crazy, so we'll see. I'm going to give the Broncos a B.
I want to say one other thing about the Bo Nix thing. I had him higher graded than JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix,
Ooh,
and I had him close to Drake May and Jaden Daniels. So I actually think getting Bo Nix was really fantastic for them. I also think he'll work really well in Peyton's system.
I will say
Um,
that I do like the fit with Bo
like there's
Nix
a
and
mesh.
Sean Payton. Yeah. All right, let's go to the Detroit Lions. Interesting team here. Went out. They got Terrion Arnold at number 24. They traded up for him. They also got Ennis Rakestraw in the second round. I think, honestly, I think their secondary did struggle last year, and getting those two guys was huge. Terrion Arnold was projected top 15 pick on a lot of people's drafts. For them to go get him at 24 and then get another guy who was a projected first rounder, maybe dropped a little bit because of his combine performance in the second round, was huge. I think this was a really good draft for them. I don't know about the rest of their picks. Well, I'm going to be honest, a lot of these guys I don't recognize, but I'll go B plus here.
Yeah, I really like getting the first two guys, both guys that fell, but honestly, I think they work with the Lions. I
Yeah,
think if you're talking about guys that fit with that culture being in Dan Campbell's culture, I think both the Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw Jr. will work well there.
yeah,
I I had them graded at A minus for really shoring up that defensive back situation
definitely.
with two young guys. I mean, these are young players going to be there for a while on a rookie contract. So,
Absolutely. All right, let's go with an interesting one. Indianapolis Colts. Leatu Latu, Adonai Mitchell, some decent names there, as well as like Anthony Gold in the fourth round. It's hard to tell when they just put the numbers. Center from Wisconsin, some linemen, some DBs. Colts need some help. Did they get it this draft?
I think they did. I gave them an A minus 92. I think the best two players coming out of this will be Latu and Bortolini, the Wisconsin center.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with wide receiver Adonai Mitchell. I think that it's possible that he could develop into a good receiver. I think he could be a good receiver for them. I think that Latu, I've been high on him ever
yeah,
since watching his film. And Bortolini, if there's one thing Wisconsin knows how to do, it's to produce linemen. Getting him at 117, I mean, the Colts offensive line I already think is good. It's only going to continue to get better and more deep
yeah.
with that
They're
pick.
a run heavy
So,
team, so that'll be good for them.
yeah, I think that was a good draft for them.
Yeah, I'll also go A minus. I think you went A minus, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll also go A minus. I like Latu. He was the first player off the board. If you remember that, which is crazy for defense. Adonai Mitchell. I like this guy. I think he has low key. This might be a hot take. I think I liked his as a prospect more than I did Xavier Worthy. Obviously, Worthy has the speed, and I understand that. But I think Mitchell is a more complete receiver, and he has comparable speed. It's not the record breaking speed that Xavier Worthy has, but go watch an Adonai Mitchell tape and tell me this kid's not fucking fast. So I
Yeah.
think he's gonna be just as good, if not better than Xavier Worthy. So I mean, this could age poorly, but I do think Donnie Mitchell is going to be a solid receiver for the Colts. So A minus for me. This one's interesting. Las Vegas Raiders picked up Brock Bowers at number 13. Jackson Powers Johnson in the second round. Yeah, let me know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the glaring and obvious, the elephant in the room for this one is
Yeah,
no quarterback,
yeah,
and I'm worried about that. Obviously, they have a O'Connell again, and they got Gardner Minshew. Minshew, as we've seen before, can be a placeholding quarterback, but like we talked about in that AFC West, place-only quarterbacks are not gonna do
Good
solid.
enough, yeah.
Like, yeah, in the AFC
Yes,
South,
are.
it might have worked with the Colts,
Yeah,
but in the AFC West, it's gonna be different. So I'm a little worried about that. But overall, other than them missing a quarterback, they got a weapon to help whoever does play quarterback, Brock Bowers, and I mean he's the best non-receiving or non-receiver who catches the. He's the best tight end.
yeah,
Let's just put it that way.
yeah.
Um, he's even better
Best
than
skill
some
player
receivers. Yeah.
besides
So
the receiver, yeah.
Jackson Powers Johnson, I think that's a solid pick right there. I like also looking a little bit deeper at Tommy Eichenberg
Yeah.
from Ohio State. I think he's been uh, at least all Big Ten, if not all American level play in college at Ohio State. So I'm a little surprised he was he was all the way down there. But
Linebackers dropped in this draft though, so
yeah, that's true. So I gave them B plus 89.
okay. I'm gonna go with B. I think a lot of people are talking about Brock Bowers. Why did they get him? Michael Myers there. I mean, M Brock Bowers on the surface, sure, he's a tight end, but if you watch his game, he's so much more than that. As we talked about in our mock draft, he runs the ball, he receives the ball. In some weird way, he's kind of like a Taysom Hill. Um, and I think is better than a Taysom Hill. So if the Raiders can find a way to use him and his versatility, I think he's a super great pick. I don't want the Raiders to make him one dimensional, though. That is the worst case scenario. But it's the Raiders. So we'll see if they get creative with it, if they get crafty with it. They seem to be kind of a one book. I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't know. They kind of always have the same philosophy, if you will. So I'm gonna go with B there for the Raiders. Okay, let's go to the Vikings. Went out, they got JJ McCarthy. They traded up to go get JJ McCarthy, and then they also got Dallas Turner at number 17. What do you think? Is that the right move for the
You know,
Vikings?
I think it's a decent move. I think like Bo Nix was still on the board. I think that was like I said, I had him higher rated, but I don't mind the JJ McCarthy get right here. And obviously, I think it's even backed up even higher with the Dallas Turner get at 17. I like both of those guys. I think they could be star players for the Vikings. And,
Yeah,
in 3 years, they could be the captains of the team still on the rookie deal.
yeah,
So, that I think that was really good for them. The rest of their draft, I'm a little worried about.
yeah,
I, I don't think I had anyone really on on there on my mind.
yeah,
And I think pretty much so did everyone else. Um,
yeah.
I'm not sure that any of these bottom guys project to be a starter someday or not.
Interesting.
So for that, I give the Vikings a B, 86.
I'm gonna go B minus. I think JJ McCarthy has been a little overhyped. I do like him, but this is a weird case where we've kind of almost overrated the success of the team rather than the actual player. I don't know, some way somehow, Jim Harbaugh had some influence, I swear, on this kid's draftability because he was really not been talked about that much until he had that press conference. So I don't know how I feel about JJ McCarthy, but I guess we're gonna find out. So I don't know. And
Do you think he starts for them right away?
who else would start for them though?
I think they got Darnold.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
I think they'll start him. I think knowing the Vikings, they'll start him. And like you said, I think the rest of the draft was just kind of.
I agree. I think he'll start right away. So
Let's go to the Eagles. They went out. They got Quinyon Mitchell at number 22. Also got Cooper DeJean, Will Shipley. Is it Jeremiah Trotter? Which actually really liked that pick that late. I I think this is one of the most solid drafts in the draft. There was an obvious concern in their defense. They went out and they solved it. Even a guy like Jalix Hunt has been talked about a lot. I I really like this draft. I think they did a good job. I'm gonna go with an A on this.
I'm also going to go with an A on this. I thought this was one of the best draft lists up and down that we saw from a team. I'm going to give it a 95, so not quite as actually as high as the Broncos, and another team on here I have higher as well. But obviously they went after Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. My one issue is that I don't think that those guys are necessarily like right away, like
Starters.
starters. They could be, and I think they actually probably one of them I think will be a starter right away. I would expect Quinion Mitchell to be a starter right away, but I'm not sure that either of them are completely 100% ready to just shut down defenses back there. That's my one problem. But I think when you go down farther with Trotter, great pick at 155.
Yeah, crazy pick.
Uh, Michigan offensive guard at 172, Keegan. I thought that
Yeah,
was solid. Johnny Wilson at 185,
yeah.
6'6, 230.
I
That's some
saw that.
size. That
Yeah,
like
tank.
I,
Somebody was saying he should move to tight end.
I think I personally like the idea of having a big receiver and using him as a red zone threat. I think he has the agility to be a receiver and not a tight end. I think his 20-yard shuttle was crazy quick for someone who's 6'6". I might I might even say it was like 4'1".
Wow.
I don't put him at tight end for that.
Yeah.
I don't want him to
Okay.
gain 20 pounds and lose that personally. But
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah, really, really great draft from the Philadelphia Eagles.
I like the Cooper DeJean pick of any. I know there's talks about DeJean going first round, and I actually like that he went to the second round and fell to the Eagles. I think he makes perfect sense with this team. This is a team that needs help both in their cornerbacks as well as their safeties. What do? You go and get a wild card guy. There's a lot of talk about him moving to safety or being a corner. Guess what? You can teach him both. You can put him in whatever package you need him to. This is going to be a Swiss Army knife, if you will. And I think he's going to be a pivotal part of this team in the coming years. Maybe not this year, 2, 3 years down the line. I think this is a kid that we're going to see as like, wow, like that was a really good pick for this defense. He's super versatile. So I really enjoyed that pick. And then obviously Quinion Mitchell and Jeremiah Trotter, I think were solid picks as well. So let's go to a team that you've been talking about a lot, Pittsburgh Steelers. First round, they got Troy Fontenot, Zach Frazier. They also got Roman Wilson in the third round, as well as Peyton Wilson, who we'll get to in a second. What did you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers? We talked about this a little bit offline.
I think the Steelers have continued to do well in their offseason moves and in the NFL draft, besides one, and that's getting rid of Deontay Johnson. They they didn't for me, even though they picked Roman Wilson, they didn't address the wide receiver situation enough. Um, I think Roman Wilson can develop into a slot receiver role, but I don't think he's a number 2 guy. I think he's a wide receiver 3. And I think you got
That's fair.
Pickens who can be a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2, but you need someone opposite Pickens. I like the pick of getting Fontenot. I think Peyton Wilson was one of the steals of the draft.
Absolutely. Huge steal.
Um, and in that I think they did well, but I gave them a penalty because they still need a good receiver. They still need a receiver.
Yeah.
And that penalty is I gave him a B plus 89.
Okay. I'm gonna go with A still. I really like their draft. I think the Peyton Wilson pick is gonna be one that we're gonna be talking about in a few years. This kid's really good. When you have somebody like Luke Kuechly coming on an interview and saying this kid's going to be excellent, and somebody like Luke Kuechly who knows football, probably one of the smartest brains on defense. you got to kind of believe him. He is incredible. You watch his tape, and he's just ferocious as a defender. That's the best way to describe him. And in a Pittsburgh Steelers team that prides on toughness and gritty football, he's gonna thrive, like absolutely thrive. I think this kid's going to be a sleeper pick, and he's gonna be a good pick. I honestly, I'm curious if how much playing time he'll get in his rookie season, but if he gets some good playing time, he could be a dark horse for defensive player of the year. Not defensive player of the year, rookie defensive player of the year.
Yeah,
Holy
no
crap.
worries.
Yeah, don't clip that. Holy shit.
Jack,
All
clip that.
right. Let's go to Seahawks.
NFL.com gave my Seahawks an A. Well, Seahawks fans, we know how much I like to crap on our team on this show.
We all crap on our teams, bro. You can't even. We have reverse bias. We don't even fucking love our teams. We always are like, fuck them. What'd they do?
I gave them a B minus, 83. I think Murphy. I think he's gonna be productive. I like Haynes as at 81. Haynes is good, a good get for the Seahawks who need some help at O line again. Murphy at 16, I think was a little bit of a stretch. I think you definitely could have traded down for Murphy. I also don't think he was the best defensive tackle, like we talked about. Jerzon Newton, I think, was even better. I think Murphy might be a better fit for the Seahawks, but I think at 16, it's too high. For the rest, we did address linebacker with Therese Knight. I still don't think it's enough. I am worried about our linebacking core, especially after last season having Wagner and Brooks.
Yeah.
We were we were blessed by those two, and
Yeah.
now I'm very concerned. Also, the Michigan tight end, I don't understand. I don't understand it personally. He's a blocking tight end. Getting him that high for a blocking tight end, I don't see was necessary. I don't think he was going to get picked anytime soon, and I'm not sure that we need a blocking tight end. So I gave us a B minus.
B minus. Okay. Wow. I'll go with B. I do like Byron Murphy. I think he's gonna be a solid player. Like you said, it might have been a reach a little bit, but I don't know. I think he'll still be solid for you guys. I do like Christian Haynes as well. It's a solid draft. It's not like a bad draft by any means. I think there's some questions, but overall I don't see where you guys like blew up this draft by any means. So I'll go with B.
Yeah.
Have we passed the team that you had a high rating on? Commanders, number 2 pick. They went and they got Jaden Daniels. They also got Jerzon Newton. Really, this Commanders team has made some sneaky good moves in the offseason, and this is another example of good some good moves by the GM. So again, defensive focus, but also supplementing some guys in their offense. Luke McCaffrey, obviously, you got to go after that athletic specimen. You know that family is solid, so you got to take the risk there. I mean, they already have a pretty solid receiving core, so just supplementing more into that, and then, like I said, Jerzon Newton, you just got rid of some D tackles, D ends, build back into that with a guy who is an absolute beast. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought this was great. I have an A grade for them, 94. Jaden Daniels was the obvious choice. I think that Jerzon Newton, getting him at 36, wonderful. I think that's just as good as getting Jaden Daniels at 2. Ben Sano from Kansas State, All-American tight end.
Oh, yeah,
Two,
yeah, I
I
did
think
see
I
that
think
actually.
2 years in a row. Great pick. Luke McCaffrey, a transitioned quarterback to receiver from Nebraska originally as a
Ooh.
quarterback, and then went to Rice as a receiver. Very athletic. He moves. I mean, just being able to transition like that, you can tell. Obviously, being from that family,
Yeah,
and he's very inexperienced at receiver. I think he's been a receiver for like 2 seasons, and
yeah,
he was all AAC in that
yeah.
this last season. So yeah, I think it was a wonderful draft for them.
What's your grade? A? Is that right?
A. Yeah, 94.
Also,
Yeah.
I'll match that. I'll also go A for them. All right. Let's talk about your lowest and highest team since you did those types of ratings.
I had the Rams as the highest at 97. They got Jared Verse, which we talked about, and
Jared
I
Verse
thought,
and Braden Fisk.
yeah, no, they're
All
gonna be
over again.
problems for the Seahawks, and I thought the Seahawks would get Verse,
They
so
didn't.
yeah, they didn't, and then the Rams decided, hey, let's just screw up Seattle's offensive line again with getting with getting replacements for Aaron Donald, and then and Braden Frisk, and then getting one of the top edge rushers in Jared Verse. So I'm scared again about the
Yeah.
Rams.
You like the Brendan
And
Jackson pick?
yeah, I liked it. I like it too. It's supplementary. And he can come off the bench and get
Provide a
some
different
good,
look. Yeah.
get some good reps in. Yeah, the Rams are scary. I had him at 97.
Who's your worst?
And my worst was the Cleveland Browns
Interesting.
at
Let me look at. I didn't even.
75.
Let me look at their class. Ooh. Ooh. They didn't do shit.
I guess I had them tied. 75 Cleveland Browns and 75 Jacksonville Jaguars. But yeah, pretty much, I
Wait,
thought
you had the
Cleveland Browns,
Jags? Whoa. Go back. You had the Jags at what?
yeah, C at 75.
Whoa. You thought it was bad?
Yeah, I didn't think it was good. What
You
did
don't
you
like
think was
Brian
good?
Thomas?
No, I think Brian Thomas is overrated.
That's right. You thought Brian Thomas was overrated.
But yeah, those are my two worst. I think Cleveland Browns, I don't think Brian Thomas is a bad get, but just looking further down, I don't think they got anybody that I liked, and I think Brian Thomas was maybe not the best get that they could have gotten. And Cleveland Browns, I think getting Zach Zinter was good, but he's coming off an injury from Michigan, and I really didn't see. I have Watson on there, but as the next best pick on there, but I don't see anyone where I'm like impressed.
Do you want to know what the NFL.com rated Jacksonville Jaguars?
What did they rate them?
A minus.
That's absurd. Why are they? Why? Well, what is an A minus?
Do you want me to read the description real quick?
Yeah, they matched one need, one get. Congrats.
Trading down for 3 picks and still landing a downfield target like Thomas was a win for the Jaguars. Smith and Jones filled with needs with good value in the second and third rounds, respectively. Calvin Ridley restarted his career in Jacksonville, but essentially renting the receiver in exchange for 2 picks did not really pay off for the Jags. Foster provides depth at the offensive tackle and could start in 2025 if Cam Robinson and Walker Little do not return. Defensive tackle Jefferson joins Smith in fortifying the defensive line. Prince is a great athlete at quarterback. Robinson will be a change of pace back and explosive returner. The team got backup quarterback Mac Jones for a 6th-round pick this offseason. Starting guard Ezra Cleveland was also acquired for a 6th-rounder last October. He re-signed in March.
So what I'm thinking about that is, I thought the Brian Thomas pick was fine. Like, I thought it was actually a little bit of a reach at 23. I guess I just don't like him that much. Mason Smith, I think that was a reach. I don't like Mason Smith or Jerry Jones. I had Javon Foster as the second best pick in this draft for them. I think he actually can provide good depth, like they said. But the rest of their picks, I don't feel great about.
Okay. All right, let's go to
When I see
basketball then.
when I see 2 defensive tackles from LSU, I don't remember LSU's defense being like
Crazy.
gritty, like great up the middle, like.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's go to NBA. So, starting off hot, Celtics just won, beat the Heat. Really, this team and what's impressed me about this team is guys stepping up. We talk about playoffs, winning teams. Derek White, Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard. Swear every game it's somebody different, somebody new. Obviously, Tatum, Brown, they're gonna get their 20 a game, but it's those guys like, yeah, I know, but like Derek White putting up 38, in game 4. Like, that's something you don't expect as a team, and those are the players that win you games, you know? A team doesn't game plan for Derek White. They game plan for Tatum and Brown. So for somebody to come off, I guess he's not on the bench, but for somebody to be that role player and exceed expectations is huge. What do you think about your Celtics?
Yeah. I think my Celtics I'm more proud of and more like I think
Trusting?
we're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have faith
Than
in?
I was previous. Obviously, we had a great regular season, so I was already pretty confident.
Yeah.
But Derek White coming in with these performances, this is what we talked about with was the difference when we had Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
And I remember being upset about that we got rid of Malcolm Brogdon and not Derek White. But Derek White proved me wrong. But with Sam Hauser also in the mix, just doing, crazy things, putting up shooting threes when we need them to shoot threes.
Yeah.
If Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum or Porzingis is out, right?
Yeah.
They're doing what they need to do, and I'm very excited about that. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
really happy to get that done in 5. The Heat always drive me crazy.
Yeah, and they really only had one game where they were dangerous, and it was because they made 23 freaking threes. So,
Yeah.
you can't I mean, when you're shooting 54% from the three-point line as a team, you kinda just have to take a step back and just be like, "You know what? They were hot. We can't really do much about it." And so, this Celtics team, they look good. They play as a team. They're the best Celtics team that I've seen play in the playoffs in the last 5 years. So, I have confidence in them to make it at least to the finals. Don't worry, I'm not gonna jinx them. Knock, knock. Yeah. All right, let's go to the Knicks versus the Sixers. This series could have been ended last night, but Tyrese Maxey made a 4-point play, which is absolutely nuts, to force it into overtime. They win in overtime. Huge game to keep the series alive. Now we're going back to Philly and to try and tie up the series. Brunson's been playing out of his fucking mind, man. It's fucking
Yeah.
crazy what he's doing. Dropping what 44, 40. I mean,
40 a
he's just
night.
going he's going absolutely nuts, and the Knicks, in my opinion, kind of need him to. Just the way their offenses ran, it's really ran through him, which is such a flip because 2 years ago it was all ran through Randall, and now it's all ran through
Yeah.
Brunson. But Maxey, man, last night, crazy. Do you see this Sixers team making a comeback? Can they do it?
They definitely can if Maxi and Embiid show up at the same time.
I'm concerned about Embiid. I just got to
And
put it out there.
I was gonna say that I think Maxi's been out playing Embiid. Like I don't know what Embiid's been doing, but
He's
it
hurt,
hasn't been.
and it shows.
Yeah,
He's hurt.
it
I
hasn't.
mean,
Yeah, yeah,
that game 4, I think it was. There was multiple times he went down, and he looked hurt. He looked like he was hurting, and it shows too in his performance because he's usually a pretty dominating offensive player, and he hasn't been.
I also
I
think
mean,
he's
he's
been a
still gonna have in
little
his bag.
dirty too. If we're
What's
gonna
up?
talk about it, I think he's been dirty too. To be honest,
Which
I'm
might be
surprised
compensation.
he hasn't gotten kicked out of a game yet.
Yeah.
I'm just there's been some dirty moves in this playoffs, and 2 of them been Embiid. So
Well,
anyway,
2 questions. 1, do you think the Sixers are gonna pull it off?
no, I don't think the Sixers are going to win the next 2 games. Even though that's what we predicted.
Yeah.
I think our prediction is going to come wrong. I think
Well, I think
Embiid just is not. You can't expect Maxi to carry the Sixers offense like Brunson carries the Knicks
yeah.
offense.
Yeah.
I think
No, I
yeah.
agree. I agree. I think it was I can't remember what game Nick Batum was going off, which is just a random guy, but I agree. I think when we said Philly has potential, we were expecting a fully healthy Embiid because that's kind of low key what he showed for a little bit. Even in the play-in games, we saw kind of a, down the stretch when it mattered, we saw Embiid play well. We're like, okay, we got Embiid back. We don't have Embiid back, if you're wondering. Checking back in. So I don't think they're gonna come back either. Do you think this Knicks team has potential to make it to the conference finals?
Oh yeah, I
Because they
think
could be
whoever
they could be playing the Pacers next round.
yeah, I think whoever makes it to the next round between the Knicks and Sixers are making it to the conference finals, unless somehow the Bucks magically
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
it done
Pull it off, yeah.
And Dame comes back and Giannis comes back. Like
Yeah.
unless the stars align for the
Yeah,
Bucks,
yeah, yeah.
I think the Knicks are probably making the Eastern Conference Finals
Alright,
against the
I like
Celtics.
it. Going to the Pacers Bucks, which we kinda just talked about a little bit. Pacers are up 3-2. This is an upset we did predict. The Bucks, Giannis is hurt. Dame didn't play last game. They pulled it off last night. Somehow, some way, Bobby Portis and Middleton took some cocaine and went off, but I don't think it's gonna last. What do you think? Do you think this is gonna last?
I think that Middleton and Portis and Lopez could push this to a game seven.
Ooh, okay.
Um, I don't think that they can win another one, like another two in a row, though, without Dame or Giannis showing up. I think Dame or Giannis needs to be there, and honestly, probably both of them need to be there if they're going to win Game Seven. So the Stars gonna have to align for that. I don't think that's gonna happen personally.
Yeah.
So I would expect the Pacers. I think the Pacers in seven right now. I think the Bucks might steal another one.
I think Pacers in 6. They're gonna go home for this game 6. I think they get it done in Indiana. Storytell comeback is over. The Bucks lose again in the first round. Show another reason why they should have never fired their coach in the first place.
Do you think they fire their coach after this season, the Bucks?
I mean, it's Doc Rivers. How many coaching gigs does he need in the playoffs to show that he's not gonna win there? I
To
don't
be
know.
fair,
I, no, I get it. I get it.
no
He was
Giannis.
no Giannis, but that wasn't the excuse for Mike Budenholzer or the last coach.
I don't think they should have fired either of the last two coaches either. Personally, it's just that
Oh, yeah.
I
No,
don't
I get
I
your
don't think
point,
they
but
fire him.
that wasn't going around when Budenholzer was fired. Oh, Giannis is hurt. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, this coach sucks, and it's like, okay, he just led you to finals 2 years prior, so let's calm down. But yeah. All right, let's go to Cleveland Cavaliers Magic. Cavs lead 3-2. Try to convince you guys about the Cavs. Y'all believed in the Magic, but this is a close series. I think this is a 7-game series. You and I were concerned after the first 2 games with the way Evan Mobley and Jared Allen looked against Franz Wagner and Jonathan Isaac, but they stepped it up in game 3 and 4. They looked a lot better. Last game was very close. I think this could go either way. Like, it wouldn't shock me if the Magic pull this off, but it also wouldn't shock me if Cleveland just closes it out. So,
Yeah, I think we were definitely worried. You had me convinced after 2 games. I was like, oh no, what was I thinking? And the Magic started kind of having like someone kind of go off, whether it was Wagner or
Paolo,
Boncaro.
yeah,
Yeah, to supplement that offense. And obviously Jarrett Allen was out last game. It was a really close game. I think whoever won that game was going to win the series, obviously being up 3-2, only
yeah.
needing one more. So I think the Cavs end up getting this one because they managed to pull out the win in game 5.
Let's go to the Thunder Pelicans. Thunder just swept the Pelicans. Game 1 was concerning for the Thunder. I honestly didn't think they looked great. They pulled off the win, but the Pelicans hung around. I thought this was going to be a closer series than it was because of that game 1. Ever since that, they really put their foot on the gas pedal and didn't look back. Thunder team's looking scary. There's a press conference going around right now. The coach saying, they might be young, but age doesn't define maturity. And how mature this team is and how they could do well in the playoffs because of their maturity. I'm feeling little bit more confident in this Thunder team than I was before. What do you think?
I don't know if it means I'm more confident in the Thunder team than I was
Previously,
previous, just because there was no Zion.
that's
And honestly, the Pelicans were a disappointment.
Pelicans
Um,
played shitty. Yeah, I will
yeah,
agree with that. And like you said, without Zion, this team has had identity crises all year. So
exactly. And Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum are too inconsistent to actually rely upon as your main offensive talents. So they just have terrible games, like all the time.
yeah,
CJ McCollum was like 7 of 22 in one game. Brandon Ingram went 2 of 14, I think, in game 4. Like, what are we talking about? They need to step it up or honestly trade him.
yeah,
Um, I don't think it gives me so much more confidence that they swept them just because the Pelicans played so awful.
that's fair. It's a fair assessment.
I
All right, let's go to the Nuggets Lakers. Predicted this one right on the money. Nuggets in 5. Honestly, what's crazy to me about this series is how many opportunities Lakers had to really just close out games and they couldn't. The Nuggets, on the other hand, you got to give them that credit. Shows that how they handle adversity. They had it game 1, game 2. I mean, they came back from multiple deficits and they looked good, man. They look very dominant. They, to me, on the West side, the only team you could maybe argue looked also dominant. And I still think this team, I think the Nuggets are better than this team, is the not Thunder, is the Timberwolves. That's the only team you could argue looks more dominant, but I still think the Nuggets are better overall. It's interesting to me in late moments, they always give the ball to Jamal Murray.
man's clutch. I mean, he
I
could
mean,
be
he
having a
he hit
bad game.
2 shots, game 5, game 2 that won them the game. So, interesting.
He's clutch because he could be having a terrible game, and then just at the end of the game, he's money, knocks it down. Yeah, what's really upsetting, and actually upsetting from the point of I wanted LeBron to do a little bit better in the playoffs, even though like I'm a Celtics fan, I was hoping the Lakers would do a little bit better. Maybe even knock off the Nuggets. That way I don't have to worry about them. But what makes me happy about Celtics fan is that in the first half, the Nuggets looked like crap.
Yeah.
I mean, they were
They
constantly
they still
down
did
to the
pretty much
Lakers.
every game, yeah.
Yeah. The Lakers had opportunities to win, I think, all but one game in this series. And honestly, they could have walked away winning the series 4-1.
Yeah.
And people would be like, what the hell happened? But there was opportunities there. I think when we're talking about the Lakers, Kane and I were talking about it. This team is just not built right. Whoever the GM,
It's not
Bus, I
built right,
think.
it's not coached right.
No, they're too slow. Like, even their young guys are slow,
Yeah.
and or they don't have high energy. D'Lo at the guard, he's not a high energy
Yeah.
guy. He's not knockdown. LeBron needs a guard to complement him on the inside,
Yeah.
especially now that he's gotten older. And D'Lo's not that guy. Rui and Austin Reeves, well, I think they're decent players. They just can't guard other
For
guards.
shit, yeah.
They're too slow.
Yeah.
LeBron's older. He only has flashes
Yeah,
of
greatness.
greatness and youth and speed,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
athleticism.
Athleticism, yeah.
And AD's never going to be a star. I I People say he's a star. I don't even think he's a star. He's
Interesting.
definitely not a superstar.
Some
He'll
people
never
think
be
he's
in.
Hall of Fame worthy. I'm dead serious.
What?
Dead serious.
This dude's never a number one. He can never be a number one on a team. He's
What
too
about his
injury
time with the
prone.
Pelicans?
What happened? What
He
did he
wa
do?
I'm just saying he was
Nothing.
the number 1 on that team for a long time.
Yeah, and that team wasn't very good. When Boogie came in, I thought Boogie was better. Remember that on the Pelicans?
Oh, hot take, hot
Sorry.
take. Hot take. I
AD
don't
has
know
been
about that.
overrated.
I don't know about that.
You don't think Boogie was better on the Pelicans,
I
bro?
do not. No, I
Oh,
have
no
stats
way.
backed it up too.
No way. No, I don't believe it. AD gets injured way too often. He's too much of a bitch. Honestly, he pisses me off because he's like, why haven't I won Defensive Player of the Year? And I look at his stats and I say, oh, you know what? Those are really good defensive stats. He probably should have won a Defensive Player of the Year. And then I see him defend Nikola Jokic.
No one can defend him.
I know no
To
one can
be
defend him.
fair.
You're not even using your athleticism to guard him, though.
Yeah.
Like, you should be face to face with that guy the entire freaking 25 seconds.
Yeah.
And AD instead is like, oh, Jokic, you're on the 3-point line?
Yeah.
And he's standing 6 feet away. What are you doing? The dude's the MVP of the league. Sorry. AD will never be that guy. He can't lead a team.
You heard it here first, folks. Doug doesn't even think AD is a star. Wow, what a bold
Okay,
take.
he
That might be
a
one of the most
star,
bold
but
takes I've heard.
he
Wow.
might be a
Okay.
star. What it depends on what we define as a star. He's not.
Yeah, that's
know.
another conversation. That's another conversation.
He's not a number one.
Let's go to the Timberwolves versus the Suns. Timberwolves swept the Suns, man. Everything I feared about this Suns team happened. Literally, I said if Bradley Beal doesn't do shit in this series, the Suns are in trouble. And what did Bradley do? Lay a fucking goose egg. Absolutely fucking terrible this entire series. Where was he? Where was the relevancy? Why did we trade for him? This man set himself up for failure when he said, "I've never been swept." What are you doing, man? What are we doing? No, but this Suns team, somebody said that it's one of the biggest GM failures of a team. Interesting, you know?
Do you think it was one of the biggest GM failures or coaching failures?
I just don't think. Here's the thing. I like KD. I think he's a great player. But ever since he's left the Warriors, he hasn't found a team where he's meshed well with. Brooklyn Nets did not like the chemistry on that team with Kyrie and James Harden. Didn't work. This team with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal doesn't work. When he was with the Warriors, it worked, but I think it was really your number 1 and 2 options were very clear: KD and Steph.
Yeah.
Then you had Clay to supplement. You had Draymond as your board and defensive guy. The Brooklyn Nets, there was 3 people fighting for that number 1 and 2 spot, and the chemistry was off because of that. I think the same thing's happening here in Phoenix, and I don't think it works. I think they need a better number 3 who doesn't need the ball in his hand as much.
I agree with you to a point. I don't think this team is necessarily a bad team to
I don't think it's a bad team either.
I don't think it's a bad team to assemble from a GM perspective.
Yeah.
I think it's poorly coached. And your coach should be saying quickly, KD is the number, in my opinion, he should just come out and say KD is the number 1 option.
Yeah.
D-Book, Bradley Beal, your second fiddle. And depending on who's having a hot night, whether it's D-Book or Beal, you become the second option. But I actually think this team with Nurkic and KD, I think there's potential. I don't think it's gonna stay. I think somehow this team's getting broken up. I think honestly the coach might be fired. I mean the Suns were just atrocious, and the Timberwolves looked. You want to talk about a team that looked dominant?
Yeah, that's why I said that. That's why I said that. It's between the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. Because
I would say,
and I know what you're saying. I know what you're gonna say. It's gonna be the Timberwolves. But here's the thing about the Nuggets. Even when the Nuggets weren't at their best, they were still able to win. That's scary to me. They weren't playing their best basketball. Not even close.
Yeah,
they are way better than the Lakers. You and I both know they're way better than the Lakers.
Yeah.
They came back from a 20-point lead and won the fucking game.
Yeah, yeah. I still think the Timberwolves played much more dominant. I
I get it.
think
I get it. I totally hear you.
okay,
I
okay.
totally
As
hear
long as we
you.
get that out of the way.
Yeah, I totally hear you. I think there's an argument for sure for both
Okay.
sides. So, what about this T-Wolves team though? I know we just talked about how dominant they are. Low key, I know I mentioned it in our preview pod of their depth. Depth is better than I thought they was. Even better than I thought it was. Guys like Nas Reed coming off the bench,
Mhm.
Jaden
Yeah.
Daniels supplementing really good defense. Um, I really like this team, man. Defensively, they are so solid, extremely solid defensively. Um,
Yeah.
that works in the playoffs. Crazy concept.
It does. Yeah, I think this T-Wolves team proved that they're even better than what people were expecting.
Yeah,
Um,
they're legit.
yeah, and they if I'm the Nuggets, I'm scared, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
I think the Wolves can beat the Nuggets, and I wouldn't have thought that before the series.
that's
So,
fair. That's fair. All right, last series they're playing right now. Let me look at the score real quick. Dallas is up 61-50 on the Clippers. But Dallas Clips, they're tied at 2 apiece. Obviously, game 5 is almost always a critical game if it's a long series, but this is a critical game, and I think this is going to tell, I don't want to say the full story, but it is a change in momentum.
yeah, I completely agree. Game 5s are honestly the most important game behind game 7.
Yeah.
And maybe game 6, right? Like cuz if you're closing it out, it's pretty
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
important. But
Yeah.
going into game 5 tied, it's like the most important games from game 7. And I think the Mavs have low key looked I think the series has gone kind of how we expected it to
Yeah.
go. I've been
We were
really
concerned
impressed.
after game 1, but I'm not concerned anymore. I think Mavs
Yeah.
could very easily pull it off or vice versa.
I mean, if I had to guess, like right now, I would choose the Mavs. I mean, we chose the Mavs before, and I would stick with that. Game 1 was a little worrying, but past that,
Yeah.
the Mavs have looked, I think, like the better team.
All right. Well, there's still a lot of games to be decided to see if our bracket looks anything like we expected it to. Really, I mean, it could end up really good. There's still potential for that. Or it could look really fucking bad. So we'll find out. But Doug, appreciate you coming on. It was a fun one. Some some fun talk about even in the NBA, man. We got into some AD conversation, some Suns conversation. I like this. So I like you getting heated.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Hunter. It was a great pod.
Absolutely. All right.